The great chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and crystal that orbited the diplomatic world below. Inside, thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered to witness the judgment of humanity. The air hummed with translation devices, converting countless languages into sounds that each species could understand. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the center of the chamber floor. Around him, rising in circular tiers like an ancient amphitheater, sat the representatives of the Galactic Council. Some looked like living crystals that pulsed with inner light. Others were clusters of insects moving as one mind. Some were beings of pure energy contained in special suits, and some looked almost human but with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Chen Wei was alone. His simple gray suit looked plain compared to the exotic forms around him. He carried no weapons, no guards, no impressive technology, just a small data pad in his hand and hope in his heart. Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth, the voice echoed through the chamber. It came from High Arbiter Kelthus, a being that looked like flowing water held in the shape of a person. You have requested full membership in the Galactic Council. You have been a probationary member for 50 of your Earth years. Do you believe humanity is ready to join us as equals? Chen Wei bowed respectfully. We do, High Arbiter. In the past 50 years, humanity has learned much from the Council. We have eliminated poverty on our world. We have cleaned our oceans and healed our damaged atmosphere. We have not fought a single war among ourselves. We have contributed to scientific research, shared our art and music, and worked to be good neighbors in this galaxy. He pressed a button on his datapad. Images appeared in the air above him, showing Earth's blue oceans and green continents, human cities where people of all colors live together, children learning in schools, scientists working in laboratories. A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Chen Wei a moment to recognize it. Laughter. How charming, said Representative Zexthor of the Crystalline Collective. Her body was made of living diamond, and her voice sounded like wind chimes. The children have learned to share their toys. How long has your civilization existed, human? 10,000 years? We have existed for 3 million years. We were building cities when your ancestors were still in caves. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Chen Wei kept his face calm. Age alone does not determine wisdom, Representative. A child can teach an elder new ways to see the world. Wisdom? This came from Hive Queen Texel of the Zekthar. She was a massive insect creature, but her voice came from the 1,000 smaller insects that made up her living crown. You speak of wisdom, yet your history is soaked in blood. You have fought thousands of wars. You have built weapons that could destroy your own planet. You are emotional, chaotic, unpredictable. You are barely 50 years without war. We have not known war in 50,000 years. We do not deny our violent past, Chen Wei said quietly. We have made terrible mistakes, but we learned from them. We grew, we changed. Is that not what civilization means? To become better than we were? Better? Representative Luzara of the Luminae drifted forward. She was a being of light, beautiful, and ancient. You are still aggressive by nature. Your biology makes you prone to violence. Your short lifespans make you impatient. You reproduce too quickly. You consume resources without thinking of the future. You are, to be honest, a species that needs more time to mature. Chen Wei felt the words like physical blows, but he kept standing straight. We came here seeking partnership. We have much to offer. Our adaptability, our creativity, our determination. Determination? Zexthor's crystalline face reflected the lights of the chamber in rainbow patterns. You mean stubbornness. You mean the refusal to accept your limitations. We have watched you for 50 years, human. You push too hard, too fast. You want to expand, to explore, to touch everything. You are like aggressive children, and this galaxy does not need more chaos. The High Arbiter raised one flowing hand. The Council will vote. All in favor of granting humanity full membership, make it known. Chen Wei watched as the vast chamber remained silent. Not a single light appeared to signal approval. His heart sank, but he kept his face neutral. All opposed? Thousands of lights flared across the chamber. Red, blue, green, white, every color imaginable. The vote was unanimous against humanity. The motion is denied, High Arbiter Kelthus declared. Humanity will remain in probationary status for another 100 Earth years. At that time, you may petition again. Perhaps then you will have matured enough to join us. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter, but the kind adults make when a child says something naive. It was somehow worse than cruelty. Chen Wei gathered his datapad. He looked around at the assembled species, at beings who had traveled the stars for millions of years while humanity was still learning to make fire. He felt small, insignificant. But he also felt something else, something that these ancient beings seemed to have forgotten. He felt the fire that had driven humanity to survive ice ages and plagues, to cross oceans in wooden ships, to land on their own moon before they even had proper computers. "I accept the Council's decision," Chen Wei said clearly. "We are disappointed, but we understand your concerns. We will continue to work on improving ourselves. We will continue to be good neighbors. We will continue to contribute what we can to the galactic community." He turned to leave, then paused. He looked back at the assembled council. "But I want to say one thing before I go. You look at us and see violence. You see our wars and our weapons. You see danger, and you are not wrong. We have done terrible things in our history, but you are also not seeing the whole picture. You do not see that we fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. You do not see that we give our lives for strangers. You do not see that we never, ever give up." The chamber had gone quiet. All the laughter had stopped. Chen Wei's voice was soft but clear. "We came here hoping you would see us as partners. We hoped you would look past our short history and our rough edges and see beings who want to make the galaxy a better place. We were wrong. You have made your judgment." He started walking toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Then he stopped one final time and looked back. "We pray you never have cause to see us differently. We pray you never see us as enemies. Because if that day comes, you will learn what our determination really means. And you will discover that what you call stubbornness, we call loyalty. What you call aggression, we call courage. What you call immaturity, we call the refusal to accept that good people should suffer when we have the power to help them." Chen Wei left the chamber. Behind him, the representatives sat in uncomfortable silence. They looked at each other, these ancient beings with their millions of years of civilization. Some felt they had made the right choice. Others felt the first cold touch of doubt. But all of them would remember this moment. All of them would remember the human who stood alone before their mockery and left with his dignity intact. They would remember his words. They just did not know yet how soon those words would become prophetic. 6 months had passed since the Council rejected humanity. Life went on. The galaxy continued to turn, stars continued to burn, and the ancient civilizations continued their peaceful existence. Then came the day the sky burned. It started at the edge of known space, in a region that the Council species had marked as empty. The first to die were the settlers on Viridian colony world Thessia 4. They were mining rare crystals when their sensors detected something wrong. Ships appeared from nowhere, hundreds of them, their hulls black as the void between stars. The colonists sent a distress signal. It was cut off after 12 seconds. By the time a Council patrol arrived, there was nothing left but debris and radiation. 2,000 Viridians gone. Their crystalline bodies had been shattered into dust. The attackers were a species the Council had never seen before. They called themselves the Krell Dominion. They were massive beings, 3 meters tall, covered in armor-like scales. They had 4 arms, each one strong enough to crush metal. Their eyes glowed red with predatory hunger. They had evolved on a harsh world where only the strong survived, and they had built their entire civilization on conquest. The Krell had been watching the Council for years, studying from the darkness beyond charted space. They had learned the Council's weaknesses. They knew that these ancient civilizations had not fought a real war in thousands of years. They knew that peace had made them soft. The invasion began in earnest. Krell ships struck 12 systems simultaneously. They moved with military precision that the Council had not seen in living memory. Their weapons were terrifying in their efficiency. Plasma cannons that burned through shields, kinetic missiles that could crack planets, boarding parties that swept through stations like a nightmare. The Zekthar tried to fight back using their hive mind coordination. For 50,000 years, their ability to think as one had made them unbeatable, but the Krell had prepared for this. They used neural jammers that disrupted the hive connection. Individual Zekthar separated from the hive mind panicked and scattered. Entire fleets fell into chaos. The crystalline collective deployed their energy weapons, technology that had taken 1,000,000 years to perfect. They could manipulate pure light, bending it into shields and weapons. But the Krell had adaptive shielding that learned from each attack. After the first few shots, the Krell shields adjusted, and the crystalline weapons became useless. The Lumini, beings of pure energy, thought they would be safe. How could the Krell hurt them when they had no physical bodies? But the Krell had weapons that could disrupt energy patterns. Luminae screamed as their essence was torn apart, their consciousness scattered into the void. World after world fell. The Council tried to mount a defense, but they could not work together. The Viridians blamed the Zekthar for not detecting the Krell sooner. The Zekthar blamed the Luminae for inadequate intelligence gathering. Old rivalries surfaced. Ancient grudges that had been buried for millennia came back. Unity crumbled under pressure. Within 3 weeks, 40 systems had fallen. Billions were dead or enslaved. The Krell did not just kill. They took prisoners, entire populations that were shipped back to their empire to work as slaves. They stripped worlds of resources. They were not just invading. They were harvesting. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. They met on a flagship that was fleeing toward the inner systems because their traditional meeting place had been destroyed. The High Arbiter Kelthas, who had seemed so confident 6 months ago, now looked like water that was barely holding its form. "We must call for help," he said. "Send messages to all member species. We need every ship, every soldier, every resource. This is an extinction-level threat." The messages went out across the galaxy. Every Council species received the call. Every member civilization was asked to send military aid. Humanity also received the message. But they noticed something. The call for help was addressed to all member species. Earth was not mentioned. Even in their darkest hour, even when facing extinction, the Council still considered humanity too primitive to matter. On Earth, in the United Nations building where humanity now had a single world government, the debate was fierce. The video showed the Krell attacks, the burning worlds, the streams of refugees. It showed the desperation of species that had laughed at humanity 6 months ago. "Why should we help them?" demanded General Marcus Stone, the head of Earth's military. "They rejected us. They mocked us. They called us children. Now they want our help? Because it is the right thing to do," said Ambassador Chen Wei quietly. He had returned to Earth after the rejection, but he still believed in the dream of a peaceful galaxy. "They were wrong to reject us, but that does not mean we should let them die." "They did not even ask us for help directly," another representative said. "We are not included in their call for aid. They still do not think we matter." President Sarah Williams sat at the head of the table. She was a woman in her 60s, gray-haired and wise. She had led humanity through the 50 years of peace. Now she faced the hardest decision of her life. "My father used to tell me something," she said softly. "He said that anyone can be kind to those who are kind to them. Real character is being kind to those who have wronged you, not because they deserve it, but because you are better than they think you are." She looked around the table at the assembled leaders of humanity. The Council was wrong about us. They saw our violent history and assumed we had not changed. They saw our weapons and assumed we would misuse them. They were wrong. We built those weapons not to conquer, but to protect. We learned from our wars not to love violence, but to hate it so much that we will do anything to prevent it. "So we help them?" General Stone asked. "We help them," President Williams confirmed. "Not because they asked, not because they deserve it, but because billions of innocent people are dying, and we have the power to save them. That is what humanity does. We save people, even when those people do not like us very much." The vote was taken. It was not unanimous. Many humans felt betrayed and angry. But in the end, the decision was made. Humanity would respond to the Krell invasion. "How many ships should we send?" someone asked. General Stone smiled for the first time. It was not a pleasant smile. "Let's start with one. Let's show them what humans can do. Then we decide if they need more." Messages were sent. Orders were given. And in a military dock that orbited the moon, hidden from view of the galaxy, something ancient and terrible woke up. Lights flickered on in corridors that had been dark for 50 years. Engines that had been cold began to warm. Weapon systems ran diagnostic checks. The ship was called the Indomitable. It was just one of 37 ships in humanity's hidden fleet. While the Council had watched humanity for 50 years, they had seen what humanity wanted them to see. They had seen peace, science, art, culture. They had not seen the shipyards on the far side of the moon. They had not seen the weapons development programs. They had not seen that humanity had learned from their violent past not to be peaceful, but to be ready. The Indomitable was 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that would make the Krell pause. Its hull was not beautiful like the Council ships. It was brutal, functional, covered in armor plating and weapon ports. It looked like what it was, a machine built by a species that knew war and had learned to excel at it. Captain Amara Okafor stood on the bridge and looked at her crew. They were ready. They had trained for this moment even though they had hoped it would never come. "Set course for the Lumini homeworld," she ordered. "Maximum speed. The Council needs help even if they did not ask for it." The Indomitable entered slipspace and disappeared. Behind it, Earth continued to spin. Humanity held its breath and waited to see if they had made the right choice. In the Council chamber, as representatives argued about tactics and blamed each other for failures, none of them knew help was coming. None of them knew that the species they had rejected was racing to save them. They would learn soon enough. The planet Etheria hung in space like a pearl, beautiful and fragile. It was the homeworld of the Lumini, beings of pure light and energy who had existed for millions of years. Their cities were not buildings, but patterns of light that danced across the planet's surface. Their libraries contained the wisdom of ages. Their art was the movement of stars themselves, choreographed over millennia. Now the Krell Armada surrounded it like wolves around wounded prey. 300 Krell warships held position around the planet. They were not attacking yet. They were waiting. The Krell commander, War Master Thorax, liked to let his victims see their doom approaching. It made the conquest sweeter. On the planet's surface, the Lumini could feel the darkness above them. They were beings of light, and the Krell ships blocked out the sun. For the first time in their long history, they knew true fear. In orbit, the remains of the Council fleet had gathered for a last stand. 67 ships, all that remained of the hundreds that had tried to stop the Krell advance. They were damaged, low on ammunition, running on emergency power. They had retreated system by system, fighting delaying actions, watching their comrades die. Now there was nowhere left to run. Representative Luzara of the Lumini stood on the bridge of the flagship. Her light body flickered with stress, dimming and brightening irregularly. Around her, holographic displays showed the tactical situation. It was hopeless. "We cannot win," said Captain Vexthar of the Crystalline Collective. His diamond body had cracks running through it from the stress of battle. "We have tried everything. Our weapons are useless. Our shields are failing. If we fight, we die. If we surrender, we are enslaved. Perhaps we should evacuate what civilians we can and prepare for the end." "Evacuate to where?" demanded General Texar of the Zekthar. The Hive Queen's voice was full of anger and pain. Thousands of her children had died in the war. The hive mind was damaged, full of holes where drones had been. "Every system is falling. There is nowhere safe left to run." "Then what do you suggest?" Vexthar snapped back. "Should we simply wait here to die? Maybe if your intelligence services had detected the Krell before they invaded," Texar began. "Do not blame me for your military failures." Vexthar's crystalline body flared with angry light. "Your coordination was supposed to be perfect. Your hive mind was supposed to be unbeatable. Where was that perfection when the Krell jammed your communications?" "Enough!" Luzara's voice cut through the argument like a blade. "Fighting each other will not save us. The Krell attack in 6 hours. We must decide what to do." The chamber fell silent. These were beings who had lived for thousands of years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had witnessed the birth and death of stars. But they had never faced their own extinction before. High Arbiter Kelthas, his water form looking thin and weak, finally spoke. "We fight. Even if we cannot win, we fight. We show the Krell that the Council does not go quietly into the dark. We buy time for any evacuees to escape. We die with honor." It was a death sentence, and everyone knew it. But they also knew it was the right choice. Ancient beings who had not fought in millennia prepared to make their last stand. Then the sensor started screaming. "Contact." The sensor operator shouted. "Slipspace rupture at the system's edge. Something is coming through." Everyone turned to look at the displays. A single ship emerged from slipspace, massive and angular. It was dark gray, almost black, covered in armor plating. Weapon ports lined its hull like the scales of a dragon. It was 2 kilometers long, larger than any ship in the Council fleet. "Identify it," Luzara demanded. The sensor operator worked frantically at his console. "Unknown configuration. The design does not match any Council species or any known hostile. Wait. I am picking up a signal. They are broadcasting on all frequencies." A voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect Galactic Common with an accent they all recognized. "Human. This is the USCS Indomitable. We heard you needed some help. Point us at the bad guys. The bridge fell silent. Every being there stared at the view screen showing the massive human warship. Humans, Bexthar whispered. But they are a probationary species. They have no military fleet. They are peaceful. We saw their records. Small defense ships, planetary defense platforms. Nothing like that. The human ship was broadcasting identification codes now. The computer analyzed them. USCS stood for United Species Command Ship. The registration traced back to Earth. This was definitely a human vessel. Impossible, General Texar said. We monitored them for 50 years. We saw no indication of ships like this. Where did it come from? Perhaps, Luzara said quietly. We did not see everything. Perhaps we only saw what they wanted us to see. High Arbiter Kelthus pulled himself together. Whatever shock he felt, they needed to respond. Open a channel to the human ship. The screen flickered and a human face appeared. She was a woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair. She wore a military uniform, dark blue with silver insignia. Her eyes were calm and confident. This was someone who had seen battle before. I am Captain Amara Okafor of the Indomitable, she said. We received word that the Krell are attacking Council space. Earth has authorized us to provide military assistance. Kelthus tried to maintain his composure. Captain Okafor, we are grateful for your assistance. But you must understand, you face 300 Krell warships. Your single vessel, no matter how impressive, cannot— High Arbiter, Captain Okafor interrupted gently. With respect, we know what we are doing. We have been preparing for something like this for a long time. Now I need tactical data on the Krell. Weapon specifications, shield frequencies, attack patterns, everything you have learned about them. Can you provide that? Luzara stepped forward. Captain, you do not understand. The Krell have adaptive shields. They learn from each attack. They have weapons that can disrupt energy patterns. They have neural jammers. They have defeated everything we threw at them. They are adaptable, dangerous, well-equipped. Yes, we got that from your distress signals. Captain Okafor smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile, but it was confident. Representative Luzara, correct? I remember you from the council session 6 months ago. You said humanity was too aggressive, too violent, too immature for the council. You were probably right. But here's the thing about aggressive, violent, immature species. We are really, really good at breaking things. And right now you need something broken. She leaned forward. Now send me that tactical data. The Krell have noticed us and they are moving to intercept. 12 of their cruisers are breaking formation. They will reach us in approximately 30 minutes. I would like to know what I am shooting at before they arrive. The council officers scrambled to compile the data and send it to the human ship. As they worked, they kept glancing at the Indomitable on their screens. It was not moving. It just sat there at the edge of the system, dark and deadly, waiting. Captain, Vexthar said hesitantly, should you not withdraw? 12 Krell cruisers, that is enough firepower to destroy a moon. Perhaps you should fall back to our defensive line and we can support you. Negative, Captain Okafor said. We will engage them here. Keep your ships near the planet. Protect the civilians. Let us handle this. But you are only one ship, Vexthar started. One ship is all we need, Captain Okafor replied. Her eyes hardened. You are about to learn something about humanity, Captain. You are about to learn what we have been building while you thought we were playing with toys. You are about to learn what 50 years of peace looks like when a species spends that peace preparing for war. She cut the connection. The human ship sat there silent and waiting. On the Krell command ship, War Master Thorax looked at the human vessel with interest. He had heard of humans, primitive creatures barely worth noticing, yet this ship was large. He decided to send sufficient force to destroy it quickly. 12 cruisers should be more than enough. It would be a good warm-up before they destroyed the planet below. The Krell ships accelerated toward the Indomitable. Thorax watched on his displays, confident in his victory. He was about to learn a very expensive lesson. The Council fleet watched and waited. The Lumini on the planet below looked up at the stars and prayed. And the Indomitable, named for a quality that humans valued above all others, prepared to show the galaxy what humanity had become. The 12 Krell cruisers moved through space like sharks circling prey. Each ship was 400 meters long, bristling with plasma cannons and missile batteries. Together, they carried enough firepower to reduce a planet's surface to molten glass. They had destroyed entire Council fleets. One human ship, no matter how large, should not be a problem. War Master Thorax watched from his command ship. He expected this to be over quickly. The humans would realize their mistake, try to retreat, and die. It would be educational for the other council species watching. It would show them that no help was coming. That resistance was futile. The Indomitable did not retreat. It did not even move. It sat in space, dark and silent, as the Krell ships approached. On the council flagship, every sensor was focused on the approaching battle. Luzara, Vexthar, Texar, and dozens of other representatives watched the displays. They had sent the human ship all their tactical data on the Krell. They had warned Captain Okafor about the adaptive shields, the neural jammers, the devastating weapons. The captain had listened politely and then said simply, "Understood. We will handle it." Now they would see if human confidence was justified or if it was just foolish pride. The Krell ships reached weapons range. They spread out into attack formation, surrounding the human vessel from multiple angles, their shields activated, shimmering force fields that could absorb incredible amounts of energy, their weapons powered up, building charges for the devastating first volley that had destroyed so many council ships. The Indomitable finally moved. But not backward. It accelerated forward directly toward the center of the Krell formation. "They are attacking," Vexthar whispered in disbelief. "One ship against 12 and they are attacking." The Krell fired first. Plasma cannons lit up the darkness, sending bolts of superheated matter toward the human ship. Missiles launched, dozens of them, tracking toward their target with deadly precision. It was enough firepower to destroy 3 council cruisers. The Indomitable's defensive systems activated. Point defense lasers, dozens of them, created a web of light around the ship. Missiles exploded before reaching the hull, picked off with surgical precision. The plasma bolts hit the Indomitable's shields, which flared bright blue but held. The ship shuddered but continued forward. Then the Indomitable fired back. What happened next made every council observer question everything they knew about warfare. The Indomitable's first weapons to fire were railguns. These were not energy weapons that the Krell shields could adapt to. They were physical projectiles, tungsten rods the size of telephone poles, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed by electromagnetic rails. When they hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. The first Krell cruiser took 3 rounds through its forward shield. The shield did not adapt, it simply failed. Overwhelmed by kinetic energy, it was not designed to stop. The tungsten rods punched through the hull, through armor, through bulkheads, and out the other side. The cruiser's power core ruptured. It exploded in a ball of nuclear fire, 1 down, 11 to go. Elapsed time 4 seconds. The Indomitable's missile ports opened. But these were not the tracking missiles the Council used. These were old-fashioned dumbfire rockets with chemical engines and mechanical guidance. No computers to jam. No energy signatures to track. Just explosives on a predictable trajectory. The Krell's advanced countermeasures were useless against technology that was deliberately primitive. The missiles struck 2 more Krell ships, blowing holes in their hulls. One ship's life support failed. The other lost its main engines. The Indomitable rotated on its axis, bringing new weapons to bear. Laser arrays powered by nuclear reactors lanced out. These were not the refined energy weapons the Council used. They were brute force weapons, nuclear bombs used to pump energy through crystal arrays. They were inefficient, crude, and absolutely devastating. The lasers burned through Krell shields through sheer power, cutting into hulls like plasma torches through paper. Another Krell ship died, cut in half by a sustained laser burst. The remaining Krell ships tried to adjust. They activated their neural jammers, devices that had thrown the Zekthar into chaos. The jammers screamed across all frequencies, electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt biological control systems. Nothing happened. The Indomitable continued fighting with mechanical precision. The neural jammers were designed to disrupt organic minds and hive minds. But the Indomitable's weapons were controlled by artificial intelligence, silicon, and circuits that did not care about neural disruption. War Master Thorax felt something he had not experienced in years. Fear. This was not going according to plan. The Krell ships tried to surround the human vessel to attack from all sides at once. The Indomitable opened new weapon ports along its hull. Autonomous drones, hundreds of them, launched from the human ship. They were small, fast, and expendable. Each one carried a single warhead. They swarmed toward the Krell ships like angry insects, The Krell tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The drones crashed into Krell ships, exploding on contact. Not enough to destroy the ships, but enough to damage sensors, weapon systems, shield generators. The Krell formation fell into chaos. The Indomitable took advantage. Its main railgun, a massive weapon that ran the length of the ship's spine, fired. The projectile was the size of a bus. When it hit a Krell cruiser, the ship simply ceased to exist. It vaporized in an instant, atoms scattered across space. The Council observers watched in stunned silence. In less than 10 minutes, 7 Krell ships were destroyed. The remaining 5 were damaged, disorganized, and clearly trying to retreat. Captain Okafor's voice came through the communication channel. She sounded calm, professional, as if she had just finished a routine exercise rather than a desperate battle. High Arbiter Kelthas, this is Indomitable. The Krell response force has been neutralized. 5 ships are retreating. Do you want us to pursue, or should we let them report back to their main fleet? Kelthas could not speak. His water form rippled with shock. Luzara found her voice first. Captain, how? We fought these ships for weeks. We lost hundreds of vessels. You destroyed 7 in minutes. How is this possible? Captain Okafor appeared on the screen. There was smoke behind her. The battle had not been entirely one-sided. The Indomitable had taken damage, but the captain looked satisfied. You want the truth, Representative Luzara? The truth is that humanity has been preparing for war since before we met you. When we found out there were other species in the galaxy, we knew we needed to be ready to defend ourselves, ready to defend others if necessary. We spent 50 years building ships, training crews, developing weapons. She gestured to something off-screen. While you were laughing at our probationary status, we were building 37 ships like the Indomitable. While you were dismissing us as too violent, we were learning from every war we ever fought. We studied your technology and built counters to it. We looked at your history and learned from your mistakes. Vexthar's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. But why hide it? Why not show us your strength? We might have accepted you into the council if we had known. Would you? Captain Okafor interrupted. Would you have accepted us, or would you have feared us? Would you have seen us as partners or as a threat? We wanted to join your council as friends, not as warriors. We wanted to prove we had grown beyond our violent past. We hoped we would never need these ships. She looked directly at the camera. But we are not naive. We know that sometimes good people need protection. We know that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. So we built these ships. We hoped we would never use them. But when we heard you were in danger, we came. Captain Okafor pulled up a tactical display. Now let us discuss strategy. Those 5 ships that are retreating will report to their main fleet. They will tell War Master Thorax that humanity is here, and that we are not as weak as he thought. He will either retreat, or he will come at us with everything he has. We need to be ready for either option. High Arbiter Kelthas finally found his voice.
Captain Okafor,
Humanity was rejected by the Council. We denied you membership. We mocked you. Yet you came to help us anyway. Why? Captain Okafor smiled slightly. Because it was the right thing to do, High Arbiter. Your council judged us by our past. You saw our capacity for violence and assumed we had not changed. But you missed the most important thing about humanity. You missed that we learned from our violence. We learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. That those who can fight have a duty to stand between innocent people and danger. She leaned forward. You were wrong about us, High Arbiter. Not because we are not violent, we are. Not because we are not dangerous, we are. You were wrong because you thought our violence was a weakness. You did not understand that our violence is a tool. And like any tool, it depends on who wields it and why. We wield it to protect, to defend, to save those who cannot save themselves. Behind her, damage control teams worked to repair the ship. The Indomitable had taken hits. It was not invincible, but it was strong. And more importantly, it was crewed by people who believed in what they were fighting for. Now, Captain Okafor said, we have work to do. Send me complete tactical data on the Krell main fleet. I need to know everything about their command structure, their supply lines, their tactics. 3 weeks had passed since the Indomitable arrived at Etheria. 3 weeks that changed the course of the war, and perhaps the course of galactic history. The Krell had not retreated after their first defeat. War Master Thorax had been furious when the 5 surviving cruisers reported back. He had sent his entire fleet, 300 ships, to crush the human vessel and destroy the Council's last hope. He expected to overwhelm them with numbers. He had not expected 30 more human warships to arrive. The Battle of Etheria lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Krell fleet was broken. Half their ships were destroyed. The rest fled, jumping to slipspace in disorder, abandoning their wounded and their pride. Warmaster Thorax himself barely escaped with his life. But the human fleet did not stop there. Captain Okafor, now promoted to fleet commander, coordinated with the Council forces. She brought something the Council had lost: unified command. She did not care about ancient rivalries or diplomatic protocols. She cared about winning. Human ships, with their brutal efficiency and adaptable tactics, led the counteroffensive. The Crystalline Collective provided long-range sensors. The Zekthar, their hive-mind healing, coordinated logistics. The Lumini used their energy manipulation to boost shield strength. The Council species learned to work together, united by the common enemy and led by the species they had once dismissed. System by system, the Krell were pushed back. Every world they had conquered was liberated. Every slave they had taken was freed. The human ships fought with a ferocity that terrified the Krell, but also with a restraint that surprised the Council. When Krell ships surrendered, humans took prisoners. When Krell commanders sued for peace, humans listened. Now, 3 weeks after that first desperate battle, the war was effectively over. The Krell Dominion had retreated to their own space, their expansion crushed, their military broken. They had sent envoys asking for terms. They had learned at terrible cost that the galaxy was not as weak as they had thought. The Galactic Council reconvened, but not in their traditional chamber. That had been destroyed by the Krell. Instead, they met on a human ship, the USCS Unity, a diplomatic vessel that had arrived with medical supplies and reconstruction materials. The Council members found it strange to meet in human architecture, with human gravity and human air. But they accepted it. They owed humanity that much and more. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the center of the chamber once again. But this time he was not alone on the floor. He stood at a table with the other Council representatives, not below them but beside them. The hierarchical seating arrangement had been replaced with a circular table. Human design representing equality. High Arbiter Kelthas, his water form more stable now that the crisis had passed, addressed the assembly. We are here to discuss the terms of the Krell surrender, and to vote on humanity's petition for Council membership. But before we begin, I believe we owe Ambassador Chen Wei an apology. The chamber fell silent. Ancient beings who rarely admitted error looked at the human ambassador. 6 months ago, Kelthas continued, we rejected humanity's petition. We cited your violent history, your emotional nature, your aggressive tendencies. We were, in essence, correct about these observations, but we were profoundly wrong about what they meant. Luzara of the Lumini stood. Her light form was bright again, recovered from the trauma of watching her homeworld nearly fall. We saw your capacity for violence and assumed it made you dangerous to peace. We did not see that your violence was directed, controlled, and most importantly, moral. You fight to protect, not to conquer. You kill when necessary, but you do not glory in it. We were fools. Vexthar of the Crystalline Collective rose next. His diamond body still bore cracks from the war, scars he chose not to repair as reminders. We laughed at your short history. We mocked your lack of experience. We forgot that wisdom is not the same as age. You learned in 10,000 years what we failed to learn in millions. You learned that strength without purpose is tyranny, but purpose without strength is merely hope. We were arrogant. One by one, the representatives stood and spoke. The Zekthar acknowledged that human adaptability exceeded their hive-mind coordination. The Aquarians admitted that human determination surpassed their careful planning. Every species had something to say, some way they had underestimated humanity. Chen Wei listened with a neutral expression. When they finished, he stood and spoke quietly. Thank you for your words. I accept your apology. But I need to be clear about something. Humanity did not come to your rescue to prove you wrong. We did not fight the Krell to earn your respect. We came because it was right. Because people were dying and we could help. Your opinion of us, while it hurt, was not the deciding factor. He looked around the table. We did hide our military capability from you. That was a calculated decision. We wanted to join your council as partners in peace, not as warriors. We thought if you saw our weapons first, you would never see anything else. We were probably right about that. But hiding our strength was a gamble. If you had accepted us 6 months ago, you would have gotten everything. Our technology, our military, our resources. All of it freely given as partners. Instead, you rejected us. And when we came to help anyway, it was not as council members. It was as independent actors, making our own choices. Do you understand the difference? Council members follow council law. Independent actors do not. The implication hung in the air. Humanity had saved them without being bound by council protocols. Humanity had shown power without being subject to council oversight. General Texar of the Zekthar spoke carefully. Ambassador Chen Wei, are you saying that humanity might not join the council even if we offer membership? No, Chen Wei replied. We will join, but on different terms than we would have 6 months ago. Then we were petitioners, grateful for any acceptance. Now we are proven allies who saved your civilization. We will join as equals with full voting rights, full access to all council resources, and full respect for our autonomy. If the council is not comfortable with those terms, we will remain independent. We will still help when help is needed because that is who we are, but we will not beg for acceptance ever again. High Arbiter Kelthus processed this. Chen Wei was right. The power dynamic had shifted completely. That is acceptable. More than acceptable. Humanity has earned the right to make terms. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership with all rights and privileges? Every light in the chamber activated. Green, blue, red, white. Every color, from every species. The vote was unanimous. This time not against humanity, but for them. The motion passes, Kelthus declared. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Chen Wei, on behalf of the Council, I welcome your species. There should have been celebration, but Chen Wei looked troubled. There is one more thing we need to discuss. The Krell are asking for terms. They want to negotiate surrender. What does the Council want? Destroy them, someone said. It was Representative Zexthor, who had lost 2 colony worlds. They invaded us. They enslaved our people. They deserve extinction. Other voices joined in, calling for vengeance. The Council species, who had been peaceful for so long, had tasted war and loss. They wanted the Krell to pay. Chen Wei waited for the voices to quiet. Then he spoke, and his words were hard. No. The chamber fell silent. The Krell came to conquer you, Chen Wei said. If we annihilate them, if we commit genocide in response to their aggression, we become what they are. We become conquerors. You asked why humanity hid our military strength? This is why. Because we know the temptation of power. We know how easy it is to justify violence. We know that once you start down that path, it is very hard to stop. He pulled up a display showing Krell civilians, refugees fleeing the war. These people did not invade you. They were just born into a culture of conquest. Do they deserve to die for that? Do their children? Where does vengeance end? Luzara spoke softly. What do you propose, Ambassador? We offer the Krell the same thing we would want if we were in their position. Surrender terms that are firm but fair. They give up conquered territory. They pay reparations. They accept council observers to ensure they do not rebuild their military, but we do not destroy them. We give them a chance to change, to grow, to become better than they were. The same chance we would want. And if they refuse? Bexthar asked. If they rebuild and attack again? Then we will be ready, Chen Wei said simply. We will always be ready, but we will not become monsters to fight monsters. That is the line humanity has learned not to cross. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the council voted for mercy over vengeance, not because they wanted to, but because the humans were right, because maintaining their moral principles was more important than satisfying their rage. A week later, the Krell signed the surrender documents. They would have 50 years of supervised rebuilding, 50 years to learn from their defeat. It was more mercy than they deserved, but perhaps it was what they needed. Captain Amara Okafor stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking at Earth far below. Chen Wei had come to visit her before.